Hey guys, it's Trisha. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be bringing you my November wrap-up and my November book haul. So for November, I gave myself a pretty lofty TBR. I wanted to start and finish 8 books that I had on my list and then finish up, I think it was 3 others that I had started previously but wanted to finish up during the month of November. So I didn't get to all of them. I kind of hit a wall at some point during the month, and I had a hard time reading any books other than my audiobooks. And so I was able to start and finish 4, and then I finished 2 that I had been reading prior to the start of November. So for the first book that I started and then actually finished in November, it was The Shining by Stephen King. This is about Jack Torrance, who becomes the caretaker of the Overlook Hotel during its off-season, and while he is there with his family, there seems to be some sinister, supernatural sort of past that the hotel has that is coming into play during their stay there. I did end up giving this one 4.25 out of 5 stars. It is my first Stephen King novel that I've ever read. I've watched a lot of Stephen King movie adaptations of his novels and really enjoyed them, and so I actually really liked this, and I can't wait to pick up another Stephen King novel. I'm just not sure what. The next book that I finished up in the month of November was an audiobook, and it was The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. It was one that I had started a couple months prior. I did the unabridged audiobook narrated by Bill Homewood. It was over 52 hours long, so it did take me quite a long time because I was only listening to it on my commute to and from work. The Count of Monte Cristo is about Edmond Dantes, who is imprisoned for a crime that he didn't commit. And while he is imprisoned, he learns about a treasure that is hidden away on the Isle of Monte Cristo. And after learning about this treasure, he becomes determined to escape and use that fortune to help him exact revenge on the men that were responsible for having him locked up. I did give this one 5 out of 5 stars. It was so enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to reading, I think, the 3 Musketeers by Dumas next. At some point next year, I'm hoping to get to that. The next book I finished was one that I had wanted to read for a reading challenge for October for Halloween and didn't get to, and that is the graphic novel Hack Slash. I did omnibus number 1. Hack Slash is about Cassie Hack, and she lives in a world where slasher killings are all too common, and her sidekick Vlad, they travel around the country hunting down these killers and then putting a stop to their sprees. This one I did give 4 out of 5 stars. I thought the artwork in it was very well done in most of the volumes. In some of the volumes, it was okay, but I really liked that each individual issue within the omnibus was self-contained. I would have liked to see more of a through line from issue to issue, but overall, I really enjoyed this one. The next book up in November was The Secrets of Drakecliff Grange School by Kim Newman. This is one that I started several months ago, and it took me a really long time to finish because I hit a wall with it. I didn't really enjoy it so much. This book is about Amy, who is sent to start at the boarding school Drakecliff because her power for floating becomes common knowledge in her family. And while she's there, she develops some friendships, and they all work together to stop some sort of strange happenings with a secret society underneath the school. I did give this one 1 out of 5 stars. For a full review, I will link that down below. Next up, I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I did this in audiobook, and it was narrated by Jim Dale. This book is about Celia and Marco, who are 2 magic users that are being used as pawns in a contest of skill that takes place in a magical circus. I read this one as participation in the Muggle Studies Book Club, which is a new book club started by Hannah from The Rainy Reader and Gabby from Gabs About Books. We discussed this on December 2nd. I will link the live show video down below so you can check it out. It does contain spoilers, so beware of that if you haven't read the book before. I ended up giving this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I quite enjoyed the world building, but I felt like the plot was a little lackluster. I would have liked to have seen more development in that arena and a little bit more development with some of the characters. But overall, it was really pleasant to read, and I know that there is a type of reader out there who will definitely enjoy this book. The next book that I ended up reading in November was an audiobook, and that was for Morningstar by Pierce Brown. This is the third book in the Red Rising trilogy. I can't really summarize this one without giving spoilers away for book 2. So if you haven't read Red Rising, Sam from Thoughts on Tomes did a fantastic job of summarizing this in a very succinct way. It feels like Hunger Games meets Game of Thrones thrown in space. So thank you, Sam, for that amazing tidbit there. But Red Rising takes place in space. Humans have evolved into a caste system based on color. And our main character, Darrow, is a red, and he lives and works under the surface of Mars with his people, and they think they're helping with the terraforming of the planet. Darrow is really content with his lot in life at the beginning of this trilogy until he discovers that his people have been unknowingly enslaved under the surface for 700 years. So the story progresses from there. Morningstar picks up right where Golden Sun, which is book 2, right where that leaves off. I did this one on audiobook. I did the entire trilogy on audiobook for my first read through. It was narrated by Tim Gerard Reynolds. He is a fantastic narrator. I ended up giving Morningstar 5 out of 5 stars. All right, so that is the end of what I was able to read during the month of November. Not quite as much as I wanted to get through, but some of the things that I ended up reading were quite time consuming, specifically Morningstar and the Night Circus. Those were pretty long novels in themselves. So I'm hoping next month to have a better reading month in the sense that I won't hit a wall in reading physical books, because I relied heavily on audiobooks this month to get me through. All right, so now I'm going to show you guys some of the books that I hauled in November. And I say some because I work in a bookstore. I don't really remember all of the books that I buy, to be honest, because I buy all month long and I didn't keep track. But I think these are pretty much everything that I got during the month, so I'll get right on into that. All right, so for the first book that I know for sure I got in November, I picked up Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire. I picked it up for 2 reasons. One, it's highly raved by a couple of people here on BookTube that I really respect their opinion on. And 2, this was listed as an LGBTQ plus book by a member of our staff, and I am working to read more things that fall into that genre. I think this is about children that go into different portals to different worlds, almost in a Narnia-esque way. I'm really excited to get to this one. I am hoping to get to this, I think, in January. Next, I picked up The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This one, I, again, don't know a whole lot about. It has been a long time since I've read something that falls into, I guess, the teen paranormal romance category. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. I have wanted to read one of Maggie's books for a while now. I'm really interested in diving into this one because I've heard some pretty good things about it. And next, I picked up The Beekeepers Apprentice by Lori R. King. This is something that I don't read a whole lot of. So if you guys have watched some of my other videos, you know that I'm trying to expand beyond my genres of preference, which are typically fantasy and a little bit of light sci-fi. So I'm trying to expand. This one is a mystery novel, and it focuses on a young girl who stumbles across Sherlock Holmes when he's in retirement and he's a beekeeper. And I guess some sort of mystery happens, and he takes her on as an apprentice to solve that mystery. Next, I picked up Uprising, a Vampire Federation novel by Sean McCabe. This is one that a coworker recommended to me. She told me briefly about it and said that it is about vampires where there are two kind of factions: good vampires that don't kill humans, bad vampires that do, and then the Vampire Federation that monitors, almost kind of polices the vampires to make sure that they are not breaking any laws or rules in their interaction with the human race. And I guess they hunt down these vampires, the bad vampires. So it seems kind of like a vampire thriller mystery of sorts, she kind of said. This is one that she said was going out of print, and we had a couple copies left in the store, and so I wanted to pick it up before they disappeared. Next, I got my Owl Crate subscription book, and it's The Glass Spare by Lauren DeStefano. This, if you guys haven't seen it, I'll link my Owl Crate unboxing below. This one is about a girl who is a daughter of a king, I believe, and she is kept secret because she has a power that when she touches people, they turn into gemstones or crystals. And so it's about her and some sort of politics type storyline, and there is a prince who wants to use her powers, I guess. Honestly, I didn't read the inside of the dust jacket, aside from the time when I got it in the Owl Crate, so I again don't know a whole lot about it, but this is one that I think I will be getting to in December. All right, and since I work at a bookstore, one of the things that we did for Black Friday was signed editions as a Black Friday special that we were doing. So for Black Friday, I was able to treat myself that weekend to a couple of titles that I have had my eye on. So I ended up picking up Ready Player One, a signed edition. This is by Ernest Cline. This is one that I did on audiobook, and I have listened to the audiobook several times over. I really, really like this book. This is a story about a world where everybody lives and works in virtual reality, and the creator dies with no heir, no one to leave his empire to. So when he releases his will, he lets everyone know that he hid an Easter egg somewhere in this virtual reality that consists of thousands of planets, and left clues to find that Easter egg. The first person to find it is going to inherit his empire. This is one that I have been wanting a physical copy of for a while. I knew I was going to want a hardcover because I have read this story so many times over in audiobook. I want to read it in physical form. I was going to get it at the end of November, and that was my plan. And then I found out that we were getting signed copies for Black Friday. So I treated myself that weekend to this one. It was a sign. I knew it was going to happen. It was perfect timing, and I'm super excited. The next book that I got a signed copy of is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is one that I have seen all over BookTube. I'm not going to summarize it because I'm sure you guys have seen it a dozen times by now, but I got a signed copy of this one because I knew I wanted to read it at some point, and it just happened to be there on the shelf, and I wasn't expecting it, so I'm really excited to dig into this story. And the last signed copy that I ended up picking up was Mistress of All Evil by Serena Valentino. This is a retelling of the backstory of Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. This is one that I I'm sure is not going to be the most stimulating read, but I find Maleficent to be a really fascinating character, so I'm excited to read this at some point. All right, and last but not least, since I work in a bookstore, sometimes they will send ARCs to the store for the booksellers to pick up and read before they are released, hopefully, because we get them really late in the game. Sometimes we'll get them right a week before the book is actually published. Sometimes we're lucky and we get them a couple of months before they're published. So these two books just happened to land on the break room table where I work, and I picked them up. And so the first one is Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. So if you've seen one of my previous videos, you'll know that I mentioned that I'm looking for a really awesome lady pirate book. This one, I think, features lady pirates in space. So I'm going to check this out. This is due to release on January of next year. And so I'm hoping, maybe depending on how my TBR goes for December, maybe I'll get to this one in December. The next arc that I picked up is Only Killers and Thieves by Paul Howarth. This is about a family in 1885 in Australia. They run a cattle ranch out in the outback, and the two teenage boys of the family return one afternoon to find tragedy in their home. They set out with a group of men to exact revenge on the man that they think has wronged them, who is an Aboriginal man that used to be, I believe, the head of the cattle for their father's ranch previous. And it seems to explore the tensions between Aboriginal tribes and the British settlers during that time in Australia. This is a historical fiction that sounded really interesting to me, especially since I don't like reading a lot of historical fiction that focuses on war. So this is one that was a little bit different, especially since it takes place in Australia, and I haven't read anything, I think, that takes place in Australia, and especially since I like the time period aspect of this, that it's not modern day. Only Killers and Thieves is set to release in February of next year, so hopefully I'll get a chance to read through this one before it releases and have a review up for you guys. Alright, you guys, that is it for my November wrap-up and book haul. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I happened to read this month, or if you've read any of the books in the haul that I did, especially Zenith. That one sounds super interesting. If anyone has read an arc of that yet, please let me know, because I've been craving some amazing lady pirates, and I'm hoping that this one will kind of give me the fix that I've been looking for. All right, you guys, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.